Well, good afternoon, everyone. We just wanted to briefly respond to the governor. I did receive the letter, and I assume the speaker has as well, as my understanding, that the governor sent. I guess it strikes me, again, a little disappointed. The governor is talking about compromise, and this is an interesting part of his letter. He says, my compromise offers have included tax revenues, raising the income tax on the wealthiest Minnesotans, raising cigarette tax, and I remain open to discussing those options with you. The governor continues to believe that the discussion needs to be about where the revenue comes from and how much. There's no compromise in the area that we're concerned about, and that's about reining in spending and reforming the way we are spending. Those were discussions that we got very close to in the June 29th and June 30th discussions with the governor, and since then he's gone backwards, and it's all about who we're taxing and what's that rate of taxation. When we firmly believe the discussion needs to be about where are you spending the money, how are you spending the money, and most importantly, in what way are you spending the money differently that will result in savings and a more sustainable, cost-effective budget going forward. We all know that this is a difficult budget year, obviously. We've got a new House, a new Senate, and a new governor, and these have been very difficult discussions. But the compromise is just not about who are you taxing and how much are you taxing them. We have to have the discussion on what are you spending the money on, and how does that differ from what we're doing, and in what way is it more sustainable going forward. That's the important compromise discussion that we need to hear, and we're not hearing that from the governor. I understand that he's going on a car driving around the state in the next couple days. What I would ask is that, Governor, before you get in your car and head to St. Cloud and have an important discussion with people of Minnesota, and that's fine, call us back tonight. Let's get a lights on bill. We are now, at least in recent history, I understand there's some discussion, but at least in recent history, the longest shutdown in U.S. history. And so, Governor, call us back tonight. Let's pass the lights on bill. Let's get road construction back up and running. Let's make sure that boilers are being inspected so businesses can continue. Let's get the parks open. Let's get the rest stops open. Let's get Minnesota up and running. And then if you want to continue this discussion, it's an important discussion. We believe in it. He believes it. But let's first start by getting Minnesota back and working.
Thanks. And as the majority leader said, the governor plans on traveling tomorrow and going to some of our members' districts. And you might think, well, doesn't that take time away from what could be negotiating time here at the Capitol? And wouldn't the time be better spent here? But actually, I think that it's a good thing if he's hearing what our members are hearing when they've gone home and talked to their constituents, which is that 6% increase in the budget should be enough to get your job done and to be done. I think what our members have been hearing since the shutdown and even before the shutdown is that their constituents and the governor's constituents have neither the time nor the patience for this shutdown in these times, and that a lights-on bill would end this immediately, would put more than 20,000 folks back to work, and then resolve our differences that we have and we need to resolve. But the broader discussion that the governor is asking for, I hope we will have, which is actually not going to be focused around how much more money can we get from taxpayers and through what means, but it will be how are we spending the very, very scarce dollars that are being put forward by the taxpayers of the state of Minnesota. So if that is the discussion, that is a good one, and we hope that he does hear from that and that his trip is productive in that regard.
The governor has said repeatedly that he's waiting on offers from GOP leadership. Do you have any counter offers to what he has presented?
Well, we continue to work at that and look at it. Again, the governor's always been a little short of detail on his offers. As we said, we understand he wants to raise taxes, whatever it is, alcohol tax, cigarette tax, income tax, preferably, I think is what he would say is his preference. We understand that. Governor, where do you want to spend it? And for us, the reforms are absolutely key. Because if the governor is looking for more money, then where are you spending it? and how are you spending it? In what ways can we reform it so that in the next years that will be more sustainable? So that's the discussion. Now, we continue to look at his numbers, and we see what we can work with within that. But ultimately, it still continues. We'd like to pass the lights on bill. We'd really like to go to work. As you all know, we have 6 bills that could be wrapped up very quickly. And we had some discussions on those. The more difficult discussions lay around the Health and Human Services bill, where you have double-digit growth. It's not sustainable. Some reforms are needed very desperately in that area. Secondly, it's around state government. And we would just like to look at how state government works. Could it be streamlined? Could it be made more efficient? Could it be made more user-friendly and save some dollars there? And then thirdly, in the area of tax aids and credits. Those are the 3 areas where the difficulty is. When it comes to public safety, when it comes to law enforcement, courts, K-12 education, colleges, the parks, those are areas where we have agreement. Let's get those bills passed. If we have to do it with the lights on and then continue finalize those bills and then work on the tougher bills, we're not picky about the process. But those 6 bills could be wrapped up quickly. And but we need the governor to call us back. And so
Senator, maybe I missed the answer to Geoff's question. He asked if you're preparing a counteroffer. Is that in the works?
Sure. We continue to work on that, Rachel. In the meantime, we would, our offer for, I don't know if you want to say it's just a standing offer, but it really is. We could come back tonight and pass the lights on bill and get things moving.
So in terms of your continuation to work, how long is that going to take? And isn't the way negotiations work is one side makes an offer, the other side makes an offer, and then you come to agreement?
Both. Sure, and we'll keep working on that. But I think what's imperative is, we've got to work. We're going to be working on that. But I think it's really important that the governor, at this point, calls us back, gets the lights on. We know that there are 6 bills that could be wrapped up very quickly. There are 3 bills that are more difficult because those conversations that we have to have if we're going to be sustainable. And we're really focusing our efforts on those 3 areas. That's the area where we felt like, especially in Health and Human Services, we were making some progress, but those folks need to continue to work because if the governor is going to be expanding the numbers of folks on MA, then we want to do it in a way that's more responsible. But that's the reform that we need to get. We need to get a signal from the governor that he's willing to accept some reforms in exchange for for expanding the eligibility.
So completed offer on HHS?
Well, we've been in continued discussion with it. That's not something where you're going to be able to, set something out, but we can set out some parameters, we can agree to those, and then they will need to go to work and continue and finalize those plans.
But will your next offer specifically have compromise on reining in spending and reforms? Because you're saying the governor is not doing that. Will you bring an offer that specifically reins in spending and brings reforms?
Those are always part of the discussion. Absolutely. Our original bills were all about reining in spending and most importantly, the reforms. And so
but how about offers? He says he's waiting for an offer. He gave
absolutely. That's always an important part of our discussions with the governor. In any offer that we've made, it's been the reform discussion has been a part of that.
So and when you, it's the 11th day of the state government shutdown, and you can't say when you're going to make an offer to the governor? You're not sure when you're going to give him an offer?
Or any details at all?
Right. Well, I think that as you saw some of our offers at the end, right, Tom, there were some specific discussions. The governor knows and understands, where we might consider, where we could work with him in the area of reform and reining and spending, and we could work with him in the area of some of the things that he needs, whether it's early MA and that sort of thing. But first of all and foremost, we'd like to have lights on. We'd like the governor to call us back, get some lights on, and then continue that difficult discussion on HHS. Wrap up the other 6 bills. We could get those done, wrap them up. We could wrap those up by Wednesday.
But you said all your offers are off the table once the shutdown started. So the Republicans only have what they passed in May at this point as an offer. Are you going to come up with any other offer anytime today, tomorrow, the next day?
Well, we put the lights on idea in an additional context here. Without a hard and fast deadline, it feels like this is just grinding. Another day, another day, another day. And the governor is now leaving the Capitol. So our suggestion on the lights on is not just to turn back the state on. That's important. We want to do that. You can also use the lights on to create some urgency and to set up a new deadline. You could put a lights on for a month. Yesterday, Tim Penny and Tom Horner, or excuse me, maybe 2 days ago in your paper, suggested a 60-day lights on in order to kind of set aside some time and a framework for discussions on the budget and on more of the math, but to just put Minnesotans back to work and not hold all these programs and all these services and 22,000 employees captive. So I think the lights on can actually help us procedurally, as well as be really important to get the state going again. I mean, it's summer in Minnesota.
Aren't you holding things up by not even negotiating or making any offers the same way? I mean, it's the 11th day of the shutdown. People are wondering what's going on here and why Republicans and the governor aren't in the same room actually discussing things.
I know we've cataloged this for you, Tom, at different times, but I think the number now is that we've made, over the course of the session, and then between the special session and between the end of session July 1, 10 offers. 10 offers. And so, you know, I think there was some good progress made within those offers. There's 6 bills that came out of that. There's been some good work on the HHS side. So I wouldn't say we're stepping back from the progress and the good work that's been done, but we've never looked at this as some kind of a used car negotiation. You go, now you go, now you go. We need to put together a good budget in really tough economic times. And we want to keep our focus on jobs and job creation and the economy. And that's going to continue to be our focus.
We didn't take them off the table, Rachel. I'm sorry, the governor rejected our offers. And so as far as we're concerned, when Health and Human Services took up discussions again, they started from the same place. They started from the same place that they left off on June 30th. When K-12 picked up, we didn't start over. We didn't take back we met the governor dollar for dollar on K-12. We didn't remove that from the table. In fact, we had those discussions going forward, starting from that place, saying, all right, Governor, we met you dollar for dollar on your number there, but here's the reforms in K-12 that we'd like to see. So we've not removed those offers from the table. The governor has rejected them in bits and pieces, but our discussions go forward. Any discussions that we're able to have with the governor, and I'd like to meet with them today. Those discussions remain a part of what we discuss with the governor always.
Senator Thompson said that we should expect an offer from Republicans Friday. Senator Dave Thompson said expect an offer early in the week. Is that not true? Is that not coming out of the caucus?
Well, stay tuned. Dave Thompson knows something. Yeah, just stay tuned, I guess, on that.
Madam Leader, all this takes place, of course, against another backdrop, and that is of course, the debt ceiling. And listening to the speeches today in Washington, President Obama, Speaker Boehner, and also you standing here today, and also the governor, there's almost an echo in those speeches. They sound very similar. People have wondered, is there a GOP kind of playing card here? And conversely, is there a Democratic playing card here in terms of how this should play out?
Well, I can't speak to the Democrats. I was struck as well. I was watching some of the Sunday talk shows, and I was struck that that the senators, the U.S. senators, were striking a similar note to what we're talking about. I just think it is the conversation that the U.S., that Minnesota has got to have. And so that I don't know about if the Democrats have a common card, but I know that for Republicans we don't. It's just our concern is, I just heard today a number on the Fed, that the federal government has not paid principal since 1971. Now, I want to check that, but that's striking. And so I think people look at that kind of spending, they look at the growth in government, and they're extremely concerned. And then you put that against the backdrop of a difficult recession where Minnesota families are, hours are being cut, wages are being lowered, or people are losing their jobs, their houses are underwater. All the while, gas prices, food prices are going up. And then they look to government and they see that, our budget has the largest state budget in Minnesota history. We have a 6% increase in our budget, even if you count in the federal stimulus dollars. And I think Minnesotans look at that and say, well, that should be enough. And then never mind what's happening on a federal level. But it certainly has echoes. It's certainly not coordinated on our point, but I just think it's the natural conversation that's going to arise out of, what people see as out of control government spending at the federal level or at the state level, and the need to reduce, rein in, and reform how we're
So
spending.
a quick follow-up. To what extent are you in conversations with the state party, with Tony Sutton, with Michael Broadcorp, obviously? To what extent are they involved? I mean, some have said they're calling the shots.
Yeah, that's not accurate, although Michael does make sure we get to the press conferences on time. So obviously we have conversations with Michael. Haven't spoken to Tony, and I'm not even certain when.
Not helping at all in terms of strategy.
No, the discussions that I have about the budget are with the guy standing next to me, with the speaker, with my members. And their conversations and their strategy comes from their constituents.
And I could just follow up on that from our folks that have gone home and they are in their communities. They are hearing a very, very clear message. And that is one that is very different from what we're hearing from the governor. What the governor is saying is that the only way to talk about negotiation is how much more money we're going to tax and who are we going to get it from. That if we're going to set that up as the only frame around negotiations, that's not where going to get us very far, because hasn't obviously gotten us very far thus far. But if he is going out and he is talking to folks across the state of Minnesota, as our members are and as they are reporting back, he's going to have a far different message that he hears from them, which is it's about the spending. It is not about how much more money you can raise in taxes and other revenues and where you're going to get it from. And it's very clear. And if that mirrors what's going on at the federal level, they're probably hearing from the same folks we are.
Tom, one follow-up. I think there's a style difference that I see between what's happening, what the president is doing, and what the governor's doing. You know, if you notice, President Obama really empowered his vice president. Vice President Biden was part of a group that met for, I think, weeks, if not months, to look at budget options and spending reductions. I think the president empowers his staff a little more than this governor does. So we would love to see Lieutenant Governor Pretner-Solon get involved in these discussions. We would love to see more empowered commissioners. You know, when we had an empowered ag commissioner, we finished an ag budget bill. So I think some of the messages and some of the conflict seems the same coming out of D.C., but you might want to keep an eye on kind of the process and the style differences going forward.
Could you explain the desire for Pretner-Solon to join you? You expressed this as well in
I think that, as you all know, formerly Senator Pretner-Solon, and so she's got a really great working knowledge of the Minnesota Senate and a glancing familiarity with the Minnesota House. But I just think that I think folks see her as a colleague, someone we've worked with. I think she has a real understanding of. The idea is we need 34 votes in the Senate and we need 68 votes in the House. And we've been saying that, and of course the governor understands that, but he comes from a different angle, whereas Senator Pretner-Solon comes, from very recently from the Minnesota Senate and from the legislature. And so, it never hurts to have, perhaps a new voice that's well-versed in the budget come in and share in that conversation.
Does that mean she would help get Democratic votes for whatever the final deal is?
No, I don't know about that, but I think the conversation. I just think it would be, she'd be helpful in the conversation.
How long are you willing to let this go on?
Well, I'd like to wrap it up tonight, Tom. I'd like this to not go on one day longer. I'd like to have road construction going tomorrow. I'd like to see the parks opened tomorrow. I'd like to get a lights on at least tonight. I'd like to continue working, wrap up those 6 bills and finish, and then, continue discussions on the final 3. But I'm not willing to let this go on. I'd like to end this tonight.
But to Tom's point, I think you could end this tonight by agreeing with Governor Dayton, just like he could end it tonight by agreeing with you.
No. And we're not even suggesting that the governor agree. We're saying let's get a lights on bill tonight and continue the discussions. The discussions have to be not just around who you're going to tax and how much, but about reforms and reductions. And we're not seeing that in any offers from the governor.
And we also have to have bills that we can pass, Rachel, that add up. You just look at K-12 and the HHS bill, the bills with reform and with lots of spending. We can't pass press releases. We can't pass letters. We can't pass YouTube videos on the Internet that are more probably created and more well-suited for an election than actually getting our work done and getting out of here. we have to pass legislation, and we have to get the 68 and 34 votes that we need to do that. We haven't seen that. The numbers don't add up, and the legislation and the people don't come together on it. So there has to be a very sudden injection of reality, I think, into these discussions immediately to get to the next step. And hopefully that's what we're going to have. And with the more voices that come in from around the state, hopefully we will see that come forward with bills that we are very close in many areas and many bills that can pass very quickly. We have some distance in other areas, but what folks are telling us is resolve your differences where you can, and where you can't, move forward with a lights on bill.
So when are you guys going to meet with the governor again? He said he invited you back to talks today. I think we're asking the same question, actually.
Yeah, I haven't heard from the governor. Obviously, we're willing to meet with him anytime, any place, and he is also saying the same. But we would just, he is the governor of the state, and he's got other schedules. But we're here and available all day, today, tomorrow.
But have you asked him for a meeting? If not, why? Has he turned you down? But why aren't you meeting with him? That's the bottom line.
Right.
Because you can ask for the meeting as well as he could.
Sure, and we absolutely could, Don. What we would we continue discussions on many levels with the governor, and I think that what we're looking for from the governor is a discussion that's not not a YouTube video, not a press release, not a letter, but the governor reaching out to us and not just talking about if he's looking for $1.4 billion in new taxes. That's not an area of compromise. If he's talking about additional reductions and reforms, and then what he might seek from us, if that's the discussion that he's willing to have, then we're happy to have that. But that needs to be part of the discussion, not a letter just outlining some more possible tax increases.
Why are you telling him that instead of us? Why do you have a meeting and tell him that again? Why are you telling us and not him?
Well, we're happy to do that. Maybe I can just give him a call when we're done here and let him know. I hope that would help. We've had that discussion over and over with the governor, especially when we were getting very close at the end. We made it very clear to the governor that the reforms are a big piece of this. It's not about who we're taxing and how much, but what do you want the money for? And since then, the offers or the letters from the governor have revolved solely around what kind of taxes and how much.
What would a lights on bill change? I mean, you've disagreed since the campaign, you disagreed in January, you disagreed in the summer. What's going to magically happen in, say, 60 days or whatever if you do a lights on bill?
Well, and our preference would not be just a lights on bill, Tom. We'd like to attack the 6 bills and get the 6 bills passed where we have agreement. We have the ag bill passed. We have 6 others that could pass quickly. We're willing to do just a lights on bill because we don't want to disagree in the process. But my true druthers, if you will, would be to go in, pass temporary funding, pass the 6 bills where we're close, get that progress, get that win under our belt. Someone interviewed a mediator. I don't know which channel it was, but they interviewed a mediator and they commented on getting some of those bills passed, and and we've been saying all along, if you could work on individual bills and get some progress there, it probably will help clarify the remaining bills, and I think that it would. And so that would be my preference. My preference would not be just lights on with a 60-day. My preference would be lights on and then going to work and start passing the bills where we're close, working up, continuing discussions on the bills where we're a little further apart.
If you pass the lights on, wouldn't that potentially, just looking at it from his point of view, put him politically at a disadvantage? Because then you pass those bills, but then it becomes HHS and the tax increase, can you see from his point of view?
Well, I can tell you that there are physicians with patients who are lined up to see them who can't see those patients because they don't have a medical license in the state of Minnesota because they're waiting on a shutdown. There's elevator inspectors that can't get to work. There's my neighbor who works for transportation who's out of work. It would be a big difference to those people who could immediately go back to work. And it would also be a step forward for other people in other states looking at Minnesota to say what's going on in Minnesota and why don't they have their act together, that maybe we're getting our act together, and that we can resolve these differences, and we must resolve these differences, but we shouldn't do so by punishing the good, hardworking folks of the state of Minnesota and the people who rely on their services.
More important than political leverage is getting those Minnesotans and state government back working.
But aren't you both at fault for that?
Well, we're the ones that are willing to go back in. If we could, I'd call the Senate back in tomorrow, Tom, and pass that lights on bill. I heard another story about was it Steel Toe Brewery, and they're not able to begin brewing their beer. They have a boiler that needs to be inspected. Now, the Department of Labor, that's under your purview, is largely fee-based and federal money-based. There's very, very little general fund money. So Steel Toe Brewery and the like are being held up, even though their money they're based on fees, they're based on federal money, money that is not in dispute here. So let's get that back to work. They wanted to get brewing last week, and that's the kind of difference that a lights on bill would have, and we're very happy to bring that to the floor of the Senate, pass that, and then continue to work.
You don't bear responsibility for not passing a budget the governor could sign, like the 49 other state legislatures did.
Well, absolutely. Well, we were not able to come together, and nobody feels good about that. But on the same token, the shutdown should have been avoided. 100% should have been avoided. It was preventable. And I am very proud of the work that the legislators did in the House and the Senate in putting together great reform bills, put them on his desk, put them online, tried to accommodate his requests to allow maximum input from him and the outside. I'm very proud of the bills that we passed and the work that the legislature did. Unfortunately, they were vetoed the day after the legislature adjourned, and that put us into a trajectory where we now find ourselves. And it is not a good position to be in. But we can and should the governor can and should call us back to at least get the state employees working again. Thank you.